I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca wherever you get your podcasts.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
Hello, it's Dave here, and I'm with my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
You're listening to That was a big hello.
Well, this is our third take.
Don't pull back the curtain.
I messed up the first time, Dave messed up the second time. We're tired.
No, we always get it right first time. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Cinemile, where we walk to the movies. Today, we're walking to a movie. What's it called, Cathy?
It's called Rampage.
What's it about, Cathy?
It stars The Rock.
Correct.
And I saw a poster where it looked like he was jumping between two buildings.
No, that's Skyscraper.
Oh, I thought that's what we were going to see.
How have you mixed this up with the other 42 Rock properties that are being released this year alone?
Oh, I'm actually really upset. I thought we were going to see a Rock action movie.
Yeah, this is a Rock action movie, but it's not that Rock action movie.
When's that one out?
Every movie is a Rock action movie.
When is that one out? It's green.
Well, it's not out today.
Sorry, I'm talking about a green man here, not
I'll
the
tell
movie.
you that much.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
No, but hang on. Don't be disappointed, because
Come on, there's a green man.
I'm going to read out the...
Don't tell me the synopsis, I don't even want to know.
Oh, but the synopsis
I
is
want
so
to know.
good.
I want to be surprised and thrilled in equal measure by the movie.
Surprise? Why are you talking like a movie poster?
Well, I thought I was going to see a movie where The Rock leaps from building to building.
I want to be surprised and thrilled in equal measure. 4 stars, Cathy Cullen.
Right, come on, let's wind this up very quickly. Introduction. I don't know anything about it. Don't want you to tell me anything.
You literally don't know anything about it. You thought we were going to a different movie.
And so viewers know, or listeners know, we had a bit of debate tonight about going to this or Ready Player One. Now, I thought we were going to the one where he jumps between buildings, which is why I wanted to go to this one. But also, Ready Player One's just too long.
The one where he jumps between buildings.
Ready Player One, like, not to sound like a granny, but by the time we get the baby down, leave the house, it's quite late. I'm knackered, and it's like 2.5 hours long. So I know people have asked us to review it, and we hopefully will at some point, but it ain't today. It's more of a kind of...
Also, I read the book, and it's one of the worst things I've ever read.
Yeah. So we'll see about Ready Player One, so that's why we're at this one.
Anyway, look, get excited, because I know what this
I am
film is
excited.
about. I've seen the trailer for it. I did an Instagram story on the Cinema about this ages ago.
Did you? Oh, I
so
don't read your
shows,
Instagram stories.
shows how connected you are with the actual podcast we're on.
No, your Instagram story was about him jumping between buildings.
Yeah, I did that too.
Oh,
All
right.
over The Rock.
Okay.
The greatest living actor
I mean, we love The Rock.
in the world.
And now, funnily enough, we're going to stay in cinema, and I'm pretty sure last time we went together to stay in cinema, I've been since you, and I went to Geostorm with Nick, but last time we came to stay in cinema together, I think might have been to see Baywatch, which we walked out of. So The Rock has a bad history with us staying.
Look, that's a blip in The Rock's otherwise stellar performance. All right, let's go see this movie that you don't even know what it's about.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
Last night, George was 7 feet and weighed 500 pounds. George, you okay, buddy? You're scared. It's okay. This morning, he's 9 feet, pushing 1,000. What's happening to my friend?
Are you familiar with genetic editing? Changes will be incredibly unpredictable.
Is he the only one?
Oh, you didn't know about the 30-foot wolf?
All right, we're just out of the movie Rampage, not the movie Skyscraper, just to be clear. But it was interesting because we were standing in the lobby afterwards there, and on one side it was the trailer for Skyscraper showing, and the other side was the trailer for Rampage. So everywhere you looked, it was just The Rock.
And, like, I don't know what Skyscraper's about. I now know what Rampage is about. And in Rampage, The Rock does jump out of a building, so it's actually the same thing. Like,
It's totally different. Do you want to tell everyone what Rampage is about now that you know?
so Rampage is apparently based on a video game, according to the credits, and is about
It's an old arcade game in the 80s.
guy
I never
who
played it.
works with primates, played by The Rock, and then there's
He's a primatologist, Cathy.
there's a primatologist, and then there's like a baddie science company, and
They're called
accidentally-
Energine, Cathy.
They accidentally infect an ape, a crocodile, and a wolf with this
Pathogen, Cathy.
pathogen that makes them all like super big, super aggressive, and like self-healing, and also they're kind of genetically modified. And
Why did they do that? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And The
It
Rock's
just
best
doesn't
friend.
matter.
The Rock's best friend is the ape, and his name is George, and they've got a very beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
So basically, The Rock and Naomi Harris set off with Jeffrey
Who
Dean
plays-
Morgan.
She plays, I think her character is called Science Lady.
Science lady. I liked her. I think she's really good. And then Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who is doing a Billy Bob Thornton impression.
No. Billy Bob, the director just told him, okay, do Negan from The Walking Dead again, if you don't mind.
No, we said do Billy Bob Thornton from any movie ever.
Yes, but whatever, there are similarities there, but this is like just Negan from The Walking Dead for anybody who has seen this.
Oh, okay.
Just imagine that character again. Like, he just basically walked off the set, and I looked
He's
up...
basically the antagonistic FBI agent. That's all you need to know. Plot synopsis done.
I'll tell you something else. They filmed this film in Chicago and in Atlanta, where The Walking Dead is filmed.
Oh,
Part-
I would have thought they
parsing.
just filmed it all
So,
in front of a blue screen.
Yes, probably a lot of that was
So,
done. But
overall opinions on this movie for me was, first of all, I actually enjoyed it for a Friday night popcorn flick, which is what it was. My overall experience was one of enjoyment. However, it's really,
it's not a good movie.
it's really bad, and it's a shame. It could have been better. It had a lot of, good elements, including a good cast, but I overall enjoy that kind of nonsense gobbledygook kind of silly premise. Generally, it's the kind of thing I'm into, but there was too much bad stuff happening that I couldn't forgive it. Like, there's like massive time jumps that make no sense. It appears like scenes are missing. Because at one point, The Rock is walking along, and then the next moment, he's in handcuffs. And we're like, excuse me, if your protagonist is going to be handcuffed at some point by the FBI, like, that's probably something you should show the audience.
Yeah, there are massive plot holes in this movie. There are interlinking scenes that clearly were left on the chopping room floor. So it's an interesting situation where the movie you can see visibly where they had to chop a lot out, while simultaneously the movie is too long and has loads of pointless nonsense in it.
Well, it's funny because I don't like a long movie, and that's why I didn't want to go to Ready Player One for many reasons, other than that it just looks terribly boring. But this almost, to me, didn't feel long enough because it was moving along too quickly, and I was thinking, actually, this could have, A, done with just being better made, but B, could have done with them leaving some of those scenes in.
No, I disagree. This movie moved at a rapid pace and kept going, but about 60% of it was pointless. The whole middle bit was pretty much pointless.
So badly.
You've got setup in the middle and conclusion at the end, and then the rest of it is just... we'll talk about it in spoilers, but it's largely nonsensical. This is for anyone who wants... I mean, if you've seen the poster, if you've seen the trailer, it's a big monster movie. It's
basically like Godzilla or King Kong or anything like that.
I would say it's nowhere near as sophisticated as what those movies can be when they're done right. This is much more in the line of a sci-fi channel movie.
I was thinking Sharknado as I watched it.
This is
it's cheap looking. Like, at one point, now granted, I know The Rock is probably fabulously fit and loves doing all his own stunts, but at one point he jumps out of a plane, and then there's just blatant GoPro shots of The Rock parachuting, and I'm like, I get it that The Rock does
they
his
borrowed
own
them
parachuting.
from his holiday snaps.
Yeah, it's just like, we understand as an audience that clearly the Rock actor did this, and therefore you wanted to capture it on GoPro, but it's so jarring to be looking at something that's like of cinema resolution, cutting to that resolution, and then it's so jarring when they're blatantly in front of the blue screen or the green screens or whatever, that like the scenes that just look so fake. And then there's scenes where they try and pigeonhole humour in, it really falls flat. And The Rock, we're big fans of The Rock in this podcast, and of course this is much
The world's
better,
greatest living actor.
much better than Baywatch, we'll say that. But he couldn't carry it. Like, Naomi Harris is probably the best thing in it. And now we have to talk about the worst thing in it, which is, what's her name?
Okay.
Leila Ackerman?
So, Malin Ackerman.
Oh my God.
Um,
She's shockingly
an
bad.
actor called Jake Lacey, who people would probably recognise. He pops up in a lot of things. He was... he had a pretty significant lead in Girls, the TV show, the Lena Dunham TV show.
Yeah.
He shows up in a lot of comedies. He's a very fine actor. I actually like. He's a very likable.
Yeah, I really like him.
Person. He makes a very good romantic lead in a lot of things.
Yeah, he does.
Um,
he makes a very good that guy. That guy, I like him.
He is absolutely the worst
He's
thing
shocking.
in this movie.
No, she's worse.
She's worse. Okay, The Rock, the greatest living actor in the world. Malin Ackerman, doing her best to be the opposite. She's absolutely muck in this, and now
She is
everyone,
shockingly bad. But I already knew she was shockingly bad.
Everyone is bad in this. This movie's bad.
No, Naomi Harris
the
isn't
writing,
bad.
yeah, but this is my point. The writing is bad. Everyone's doing their best to deal with being in this movie, but somehow everyone elevates it except her, who just cannot pull off this dog shit.
She's so bad, but anyone who watches the TV show Billions, of which is one of my guilty pleasure, will already know how bad an actress she is, because she absolutely ruins Billions as well. And again, it's a movie where everyone is out of control, hammy acting, and the dialogue's terrible. Or TV show that's completely hammy and ridiculous, and everyone pulls it off except for her, and she's mortifying to watch. Like, I cringe. I find it excruciating to watch her trying to act. And then in this movie again, she's so bad, and it's not just the direction in the dialogue, it goes beyond that. And I know this sounds really mean, but I don't understand how she gets cast in anything.
I don't know. And now we sound like we're being very mean. And she's a person and a real person, and this
and
is
of
her
course
profession.
she listens to the cinema.
And no. But it's actually important for anybody who critiques anything, because it's very easy to say, "Oh my God, Ryan Johnson ruined my life," and you see that a lot, and he's a dick, and people abuse him on Twitter.
But I'm not saying she ruined my life. I'm just saying,
come on,
she ruins the movie.
I'm making a point here. I'm
Okay.
saying fanboys and the internet are polarize everything, and then they enrage people, and everything is either it's either the best thing ever or it's the worst thing ever, and people get victimized because she's just a person doing her job. But I guess we're here to say what we thought of how she did her job, and she didn't do her job well. So in a way, it's in a weird performance evaluation. So it's we're not going to be able to keep you on, Malin.
In an already bad movie, she manages to make every scene she's in worse.
Do you know
Can we agree on that?
Do you know what she reminds me of? That level of acting from like cutscenes from Command and Conquer games from the 90s. If anyone remembers that weird reference, but sort of like video game cutscenes with real actors on PC games in the 90s. That's what we're talking here. She's dreadful. But do you know what? I love dreadful things when they're bad. Like, this movie is just about so bad it's good.
I enjoyed it. I'm actually glad we went to see it.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, it ticks. Do you know what? It ticks the prerequisite boxes of having a military commander who has ignored everyone's advice and has this isn't a spoiler because it doesn't matter,
and it happens in every movie ever,
and is the best cliche in a movie, and has gone ahead with the military strike. God damn it, go ahead with it. And now he spends the whole movie in a room watching a screen and saying these words. There's a sequence where we see him and he says, "My God," followed by, then when they win the day, "I'll be damned."
Spoiler stream. And including ignore. I mean, if The Rock bursts into your lair to give you advice, you take The Rock's advice. I would just say that's what you should do.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan had some classic cliche dialogue as well. He says at one point to that military commander, the skeptical military commander, about The Rock and Naomi Harris, he says, "These two people are probably the most qualified people in this world to tell us about this monkey and this wolf."
Also, when the animals were all like super injected or whatever and they became massive, to scale it made no sense because the wolf was bigger than the ape. No,
the answer to all your questions, Cathy, is CRISPR.
Okay.
Because that's what Naomi Harris is scientist lady, and she comes in very early on to deliver the exposition to Rock, Mr. Rock, who won't understand. So she literally explains to him, you see, there's this thing called CRISPR, which for anyone listening is actually a real thing, and it's very, very interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. It's like, but so this is a classic movie thing of take a drop of like real world science, and then extrapolate it, add nonsense equals movie gobbledygook.
And have character open a Wikipedia page about it.
That was my favourite thing. She's trying to explain it to The Rock. There's this thing called CRISPR, and then she takes out her phone and Googles CRISPR, and what comes up is not like a web search of results. It's like a catalogue of different animals and all their abilities, which are obviously going to feature later in the movie.
It's perfect. And then, of course, as the movie goes on, it's like The Rock's not just a primatologist, he's like an ex-army ops. He stops animal poaching. He's like,
He's
the
the perfect
muscular
guy.
man with the heart of gold. And it's funny watching The Rock, because actually for most of this movie he's fully clothed. And when he's just fully clothed, he kind of just looks like... First of all, it's the first time I've ever seen a movie where I'm like, oh, he looks quite old now. And secondly, it's in normal clothes, he actually just looks very overweight. Obviously by the end he's taken the jumper off and you see all the muscles and stuff, but if you just passed him on the street, I don't think you'd realise the beast that lies beneath.
I feel like The Beast That Lies Beneath is another Rock movie which is coming out this fall.
So yeah, I mean, other than... Okay, we'll go to Spoiler Street now before we get on the train, but I just think as a fun Friday popcorn flick, I enjoyed it. I think me and you are particularly primed for this movie because we love this kind of silly nonsense.
We're primate.
Yeah, so I would probably recommend our listeners don't go and see it, despite the fact that we quite enjoyed it.
Look,
pretty
I will
terrible.
say, don't pay full price for this, but because quick shout out to View Cinemas, who don't sponsor this podcast, but and we're not really a fan of the big chains usually, but we got these tickets, 2 tickets for only £13.
Which, like, anyone who lives anywhere near London knows that usually at
it's
least
£13 a ticket.
Yeah, it's really expensive.
Actually, I went
to
to
go
the
to the cinema.
View in Leicester Square to see A Quiet Place, which is another episode we've had up recently. That cost us £18 each.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Whereas this View in Staines, FYI everyone, $5.99 a ticket for every film.
Except
every
on
day of
Mondays
the
when
week.
it's $4.99 apparently.
And they're going big on this, and I think this is the future of cinema. Get people in, because we spent that much on snacks we didn't need anyway.
And I did that classic thing of ordering like a Coke and a popcorn, and then they say, it's only 50p more to go large, and I go,
No,
okay,
20p.
20p.
Like,
and then I ate
the
it all.
economics of that don't make any sense.
But it's a great idea because it's actually the busiest I've ever seen that cinema, and it's usually a quiet cinema. So it makes sense to get people into your... Like, you just have these theatres that nobody's in normally.
All right, we've just crossed over the tracks onto spoiler tracks.
Yeah, spoiler tracks.
So, firstly, I'd like to discuss the sort of the sign language that The Rock and George were doing throughout, which a nice little touch. They were able to communicate. They're best friends, of course. I've seen this before, as a lot of you will have, in Congo, the 90s action film with gorillas.
No, I've never seen that.
A gorilla speaks in sign language. And her name is Amy, but she's got a little Nintendo glove robot thing, which translates what she's saying into a voice. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, my favourite part of that movie is she keeps going to the female protagonist, ugly lady. And that's all I could think of throughout this whole movie. But there were whole segments of this where The Rock is obviously saying what to us as he's signing to George what he's saying, so we know. And he's giving George very complicated instructions. And at one stage, I wrote this down. He said, George, we've got to stop these things before they destroy the city. Okay? Mm-hmm. That was his instruction to George. But all he did was, now this is a podcast, you can't see what I'm doing, but he had one hand and he just made a little circle like this.
Yeah. George is a very intelligent being. He's been injected with this super, super drug.
I don't know sign language, but I'm pretty sure that's not the sign for that.
In terms of spoiler tracks, I like what you did there. In terms of spoilers, my kind of only point to discuss really is so the villains, right? The siblings, the evil siblings. In terms of motivations, I would say were entirely unclear. So they were working in space where they were developing this freakish thing to do to animals. Then somehow accidentally...
For
reasons unknown. Somehow it accidentally got launched into Earth and hit the 3 animals we mentioned. And then their plan after all this was, now they have an antidote, which doesn't stop them growing, because the animals are growing and growing and growing in size. It just
stops them being
aggressive. And then they say, right, how will we get them the antidote? What we'll do is we'll create some sort of sonar called them using, of course, bat DNA that's been in this in this thing, and then we'll build a radio tower on top of our skyscraper, which is in the middle of Chicago.
Which they could have put anywhere.
We'll lure them to this point, so all three of them are going to arrive here, and then we'll give them the antidote then, which is tiny, like about the size of like our podcast recorder. So they've no way of it, they haven't figured out how to administer this. They vaguely mentioned that the army can kill them and then they'll take their blood as DNA and sell it. Like, none of that makes sense, right? Okay, fine. Then you think, put all that aside, that doesn't make sense. Clearly what these two will do now, being the billionaires they are, is that they'll leave and they'll get their lackeys to do this. No. So they not only do they stay, but Milan Ackerman actually goes and changes into a fabulous red dress, which is like really tight, kind of aspirational boardroom dress that you would wear. She's like full lipstick, her hair is done, everything's doing. They're feeding a pet mouse, which we never know why they're feeding this mouse, and then they're all about saving the mouse to the point where they then go to the top of the roof of the skyscraper as the helicopter's arriving to take them away, and then they just arse around for 20 minutes, including a scene where they shoot the Rock dead. I say that in quotation marks. Now, we know at least 40 minutes left in this movie when the Rock shot, and we don't see him die. So when he shows up in the next scene to rescue Naomi Harris, are we supposed to be in any way surprised that the Rock is showing up?
No, we're not. It's pointless. That whole thing was pointless.
What was fun, though, was when they put the anecdote in her bag, and then the antidote. Why am I saying anecdote? I'm so tired. They're putting the antidote in her bag, and then the ape eats her.
George eats her.
That
was a nice scene.
I thought that was fun.
Yeah, look, this movie is... Here we go. Oh.
Dave does this every time we come here. He tries to get on the wrong
I
train.
think that's our train. Another point, how did The Rock know about the airstrike?
Makes no sense.
Nobody told him about the airstrike.
Maybe Jeffrey Dean Morgan texted him or something.
He did on his satellite phone.
And the other thing in terms of, in the end, usually these movies will get me kind of emotionally, you know, these big action movies. Like, for example, this director whose name escapes me,
Brad Payton.
He also made
every other movie
San Andreas,
with The Rock ever.
Loads of movies with The Rock, weirdly, when we looked him up. But he made San Andreas, and honestly, San Andreas is a movie that I thought was pretty, for this genre, pretty decent. This is nothing on San Andreas, because there was quite emotional stuff in San Andreas with his daughter and his ex-wife and things like that. This at the end with The Rock and the ape just left me cold. Like, I mean, to the sense where I could at least be vaguely invested in them. This was like, actually, I didn't even like that ape. I found him really obnoxious and misogynistic and really vulgar. And when they were doing their laddish banter, I found it really annoying.
Yeah, it's for 12-year-olds.
So I really didn't. And it was funny because there was two kids next to us who couldn't have been more than 10, these two little boys, and they were laughing their heads off at this ape. Like, they were just so excited by him.
This movie would be great fun if you were 13.
Yeah.
I think.
It was a funny thing because I don't know what the classification was, but there was some bad language in it, but then some of it was bleeped out. So like motherfuckers was bleeped out, but shit was left in.
It wasn't bleeped out. They did the classic thing of
bleeped out with noise. Yeah. So I guess it was maybe 12. But yeah, anyway, that's really all I have to say about it. It's just there was no emotional impact for me. I found the humour, the kind of laddish banter between him and the ape, like genuinely annoying, and I did find it annoying the way a couple of times The Rock kept calling women like ladies and kind of implying that you know, you shouldn't curse around ladies or whatever. I find that stuff really annoying. And Naomi Harris is too good for it, and The Rock was too good for it.
The script is poor. There's 4 people on this. One of them is Carlton Cuse, who was one of the showrunners on Lost, bizarrely.
Okay, weird.
But the script is all over the place.
Yeah.
It's incoherent. None of their scene-to-scene stuff doesn't make sense. Like,
no, completely jarring.
Threads. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is, at 1 minute he's in a military base.
Yeah.
Then he's in the building confronting the guy in this weird scene. Then suddenly he's back at the military base.
And why would Jeffrey Dean Morgan
back at this building again? Like, it
makes no sense. And the military base is not in Chicago, because in the military base they're talking about dropping a bomb on the city. They're not talking about dropping a bomb on themselves. They're watching it through like a telescope.
Yeah, so he's traveling like hundreds of miles every
and why did
minutes.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan go to the base of the building with the so-called kind of radar thing on top of it to arrest them? Now, in the middle of the building collapsing, it makes, and the mouse in the cage is there, and we never find out what this mouse is for.
No.
So I thought the mouse was the antidote. Like, I was waiting for something to happen with the mouse, and then just nothing happened of
If
it.
the movie if a movie this stupid is confusing us, then it's the movie's fault.
I did enjoy the scene. As I said, it made no sense that 1 minute The Rock's just there, and next minute he's being handcuffed on a plane. It makes no sense. But then later on, he just rips the handcuffs off with his like sheer strength. So that was quite fun.
My favourite little touch is at the very, very end of this movie, after George is good and he plays dead or whatever, and there's a little moment where he starts like helping people out of buildings. So he puts his hand up and this to the third floor, and this man, a survivor from the wreckage of the city, like steps onto his hand, and he kindly puts him back down, and you're like, oh, what a touching moment. But right, hang on a second. Why would that man, that a minute's hesitation, steps onto the hand of the gorilla that just moments ago was destroying the entire
because he saw
city.
George having his laddish banter. Did we see a movie last year, like, on this podcast, where there was like giant animals in like Vietnam?
It was King Kong, love.
Oh, we saw a remake. Okay,
Which
because I was
must say-
watching this. I feel like I saw this really recently.
That's a better example of how you can elevate a monster movie. 'Cause that was also great fun, silly, had all these elements, but actually had like a banging soundtrack, some really inventive visuals,
And it looked good. It didn't look. This looked cheap for a movie that you would assume had a very big budget.
and it had a great setting. Like that's elevating what the monster genre. This is doing nothing.
It's doing nothing.
This is subpar.
And we keep forgiving The Rock, but I don't know if we should keep forgiving him.
Oh, I
He
could
needs
watch
to
The
pick his
Rock
game
in
up.
anything.
Yeah,
He was
but-
great in this.
Yeah, but what's okay?
Oh, and
what's his end game? Like, what's his career plan? Is it just to keep churning out shit like this, despite being
fine
one of
with
the
that.
biggest paid actors in the world? Like,
I'm fine with that.
use your platform to do something interesting.
No,
Like,
he's
the
the
best
Arnold
thing he's ever
Schwarzenegger
done.
of the 21st century. We need this. We need a silly action hero who's the same in every film, and you know what kind of film you're going to get with
But
him.
he's an intelligent guy. Like, he could be in better movies than this. Like, what's his Terminator 2, if you're going to reference Arnold Schwarzenegger? The best I've ever seen him in, and it's a cartoon, is Moana. It's the best job I've ever seen him do.
I don't know.
I don't know how much
that.
credit he can take.
But I do know that, as I've said twice already, he's the greatest living man on the planet. Let's wrap this up. Here's
I
our
just
drink.
think he needs to get beyond the physical, you know, and not just be, oh, look, all the jokes are about my muscles and I'm really strong and I can do, you know, physical things. I think there needs to be more to it than that.
I did enjoy that this movie also had the prerequisite scene where a girl tries to come onto the Rock, but he does not engage. Have you noticed that? That happens in the Fast and the Furious movies at soccer games. There's always like somebody tries to pick him up
I
because
meant to
he's
say
so
that
irresistible.
to you. What's funny, I was thinking this early on in the movie and then I forgot because obviously the movie was just so outrageous. He's always very sexless, the Rock, isn't he? Like you just kind of referenced there, but he's always an asexual character. Like I don't know if I've ever seen him with any sort of romantic interest in anything
it's
that
true.
I can think of. And
Maybe he writes that into his contract.
Well, maybe he does because it's quite unusual in these sort of movies to never have any romantic connection with anyone, including like the Fast and the Furious, like you said, like even Baywatch when we saw that. And
Or
now
chemistry.
He's no chemistry.
He doesn't tend to have like romantic chemistry.
The
with
best
anyone
chemistry he had was in a movie we half watched and gave up on with Kevin Hart. They were quite good together, albeit we couldn't finish the movie because it was so dull.
Oh, it was pretty
I
bad.
can't remember what it was called, but listen, we should wrap it up.
It was called CIA cop comedy movie, I think.
We should wrap this up because we're on the train and it's really quiet.
Okay. Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah.
We're whispering now. Even
It's
though
one
a
of these
second
new
ago
trains.
I was the loudest person on the train.
One of these trains that has no carriages. It's just really long. So
No, it has carriages, Cathy. All trains have carriages.
Oh,
They
well,
just
there's no
they
doors
don't have
between them,
doors
yeah.
between them. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, you probably didn't. I don't think anyone is going to go to this movie.
well, judging by staying
I think-
cinema tonight, it was pretty
That's
busy.
because Stain Cinema is $5.99 for every take. I really sound like I'm advertising.
You
them
really
now.
do.
But dear God, that's great value.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'll be damned. The Cinema was brought to you by View Stain.
Except it wasn't. We've just given them a whole episode of free advertising. Well, we did get extra popcorn for 50 pence though, so they're the
we're
bigger
paying
fools.
them.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We are on the socials. Go see us there. We're at the Cinemile on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and you can subscribe to us on wherever you're listening to podcasts.
Yes.
And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please give us a quick review. It really, really helps us get found.
It really helps us. But you know what actually would be really nice if what we always
What'd be really
appreciate
nice, Cathy?
if instead of as subscribing to us on iTunes would be to recommend us to a friend. That would be nice, wouldn't it? If someone asked for a podcast recommendation.
or just give an unsolicited podcast recommendation.
Like when you.
What you do is, I'll feed you the script, all right? So you get into work on Monday morning, and everyone's like, "Oh, what'd you do over the weekend?" And it's like, "Oh my god, I listened to one of my favorite podcasts. It's called The Cinema."
You started by going, "Oh my god."
Yeah, you have to say. No, you do it. You do it like the general in this movie. You say, "Oh my god."
No, you don't say, "Oh my god." You say, "My god."
I'll be damned.
But anyway, that's what you do. And thanks for listening. We hope if you go and see Rampage, you like it, but we recommend you don't go and see it.
I've got an idea. Okay, if you recommend this podcast to a friend, we'll give you a 20% discount. No, I'll tell you what. If you recommend this podcast to a friend, then we'll guarantee that they can get £5.99 film tickets at The View in Staines.
Yeah, we will. Okay,
That's
bye.
the Cinemile promise.
Bye.
Bye.
It's okay, Amy.
Where? Ground. Where? Ground.
It's fine. We're flying. We're going to the jungle.
Amy wants green drop drink.
No.
Amy wants green drop drink.
All right, all right.